That's right, everyone. Welcome back to the Principles of Fitness podcast. My name is Cameron Harn. I'm super excited to bring you this episode today because if you've heard of NASM, Apex, 24-Hour Fitness, or DotFit, our next guest has his hands in the beginnings of each of these companies and almost the beginning of the fitness industry. And this episode is incredibly amazing because we sit down with fitness legends and icons, Neal Spruce and my mentor, Mike Pincus, and we go over nutrition, we go over how Neal got started in the fitness industry, what his goal is in life, how he wants to save the world through health and fitness, and 5 steps. I mean, just incredible information that Neal dumps on us. And Mike, how did you feel that interview went for you the other day?
I thought the interview was great. It was a great time to sit down with Neal and introduce you, Cameron, to Neal and be able to see and hear firsthand words of wisdom from what we call in the industry the man himself. You know, he had an amazing career as a bodybuilder, and a lot of people don't realize that he was actually in the trenches of the world of bodybuilding back in the day. But then to see what he has been able to accomplish, and his goal is to save the world through fitness and nutrition, and to be able to hear the path that he has taken over the years, where he started, where he came from, and then see where he's going with it. For me, it was just a great time spending with a great man and one of my mentors from early on.
Yeah, it was definitely a great time. I enjoyed sitting at his ranch in the beautiful Southern California sun. And yeah, man, I mean, let's go ahead and get into it, everyone. This is episode number 13 with Neal Spruce. All right, so now we're live and we're recording, so anything that we say can and will be used from this point on.
Perfect.
Neal, thanks for meeting with us today.
Thank you.
Super excited to get started with you. I think one of the first things I just want to ask you, just can you tell us a little bit about how you got to now, where you started from, and what you're doing currently?
Okay, you're talking all from a business standpoint then, right? Of how we got to where we are today and in our network of businesses?
Even more personal, like where did you grow up? Like how did you create everything that you've created so far?
Well, and again, that's kind of plays into the same thing. I grew up in, really with like different families and didn't have, parents like everybody else. So, for me, what really kept me at least halfway straight and narrow was sports. And, football, when I played football, that led to bodybuilding. And that's what really kept me completely away from the dark side, if you will, because I grew up motorcycle gangs. I also spent many years, doing that. And so that was a bit of an outlaw throughout those years. And bodybuilding and football changed my life. And everyone around me pretty much was dead or in jail. And since that saved my life, I made a decision to myself, and I kind of flipped the switch at about age 23, and I said, it saved me. I can save the world. So I set out to build an empire to save the world, and fitness was it. It started with bodybuilding. I used that as a platform to get to the next level. Gold's Gym took me in and really started my career for me. There was only one Gold's Gym when I started, and that was Venice, and then San Francisco is where they found me. And I was involved in what they call the Great Eight. And those are the people that helped kind of spread the brand around the world, open it up. And then when I retired from bodybuilding, I went in and started my first real company, which was Apex. And that grew into the biggest in the world fitness platform. And then the second one, National Academy of Sports Medicine, merged that with I merged Apex with 24-Hour Fitness. Mark Mastroff became my partner, and still my partner today in all our businesses. But that was it. It was all about saving the world the way fitness saved me. So I just set out to build these companies to do that. And we really had a kind of a different take on it all because, for me, it was really about, there was so much clutter and so much stuff in diet and nutrition. And that was my thing was, okay, how do you absolutely tell the truth and give people the real answers and, get out there and build a business doing that. So that's kind of the road that we took all the way through.
Excellent. Can you tell me a little bit more about the motorcycle gangs and stuff? Like how did that play into your past?
Well, it's just that, I started my first motorcycle when I was 14. And then, you just kind of, you got to learn how to get to the next day. So that was kind of your family. So, I think our group was the Devil's Henchman. I was a hang-around. So, I never made it all the way to the, top guys. Everybody wanted to be a Hell's Angel if you were in the motorcycle gangs, but we were just a hang-around group for the Hell's Angels. And they just decide if you can stick around or not. So that was it. Just hanging around that for those years. Always got in trouble. And, you had to get to the next day. So you did what you did. You did whatever you did to have to get to the next day. But, I was a mechanic during those years as well, so I made a living, which was unlike most of my friends. They had they were doing it in many other different ways, and then of course sports is what kept me from going drugs and alcohol or any of those things, because I had to be okay to play, and I loved to play. Mm-hmm. And then I got into bodybuilding. And so that was really it. It was just the typical life of an outlaw, nothing really any different. You go into a bar, you beat people up, you need something, it's just kind of the way it was. And then I left that life, and that was, and went into business and took all my energy and put it in that direction.
How did you get involved with it in the first place? I mean, you said at 14 you got on your first motorcycle. Yeah. How did that turn into?
Just the people around me, that was it. I just when you Harleys is all I ever had. So when you ride Harleys, back in my day, now I make the joke today. I go, the only guys that had Harleys in my day were bad guys. The only guys that have Harleys today are rich guys.
Right.
So when you had a Harley, you were just automatically a bad guy.
Yeah.
So you attracted bad guys, and bad guys attracted you. So that's how you kind of got into it. They got to I was always the youngest. Trust me, there was nobody in gangs at age 15, like in motorcycle gangs. They're all older guys. I mean, they would come to my football games when I was in high school, and these were like 25, 30-year-old guys, and, they'd be coming drunk.
Cheering you.
So, yeah, cheering. Yeah. So,
was this up in the Bay Area?
It was Bay Area, yeah. San Francisco, Palo Alto area, the South Peninsula.
You said at 23 you kind of had a shift in your perspective or in your life. What influenced that? Were you seeing people that you were close to kind of falling off or getting arrested, I'm assuming, with being in a gang?
Sure. I mean, we were, I got to the point where if I went any deeper, I would have been in trouble like everybody. I would have gotten in some really bad trouble. So I didn't, and so I left. I flipped the switch at that point, and plus everybody, there were guys were dying, and they're in jail. So I just at that point, I just said to myself, I had seen clear. I was so hooked on bodybuilding.
Were you
right around then
lifting?
Yeah, I was lifting. I was lifting for the 2 years before that, and that's what really got me into it. I decided I was going to compete, and once I got to that point, there was nothing left to do other than train, eat, work, and be on the straight and narrow in order to do that. So
where were you getting your information back then that you now give to us?
Okay, well, peers back then. So, everyone, just muscle magazines is where you start, Right, back then it was Weider and Hoffman. Those were the magazines you read and pick up a book. And at that point, Arnold was, competing in the Olympias during those years. And so you'd kind of pick up one of those books, Franco Columbo book, and you'd read those things and just pretty much mimic what they did. So it was really the peers or the people you aspired to be. You just read what they were doing. And they were they were ahead of their time. I mean, it's one thing I can tell you, that these guys knew how to build muscle and feed muscle, and how to diet and so forth appropriately. It's not like it's a whole lot different today, other than that we're talking about bodybuilding now and building large amounts of muscle. You wouldn't want to train that way if you're a functional athlete, or if you were, be in different planes of motions, or even just the average person on the planet that wants to just stay in shape and be functional into old age. You're certainly not going to be working out in fixed planes of motion with heavy stuff, But I loved it. I loved lifting heavy stuff.
Right.
That was more fun than actually the bodybuilding competition itself.
Did they cover in the magazine, the books and everything, did they actually discuss nutrition?
Oh, yeah. Nutrition. One thing you learn as a bodybuilder, that nutrition is far more important than training. Training we all love to train. But eating was a pain in the ass.
Right.
You had to pack your food, make it, eat every 3 hours, whether you like it or not. Off season, when you're trying to put on muscle, you're stuffing yourself. You're just full all the time. Getting ready for a show, you're dying of starvation. You're literally, we call, your last 6 to 8 weeks, what we call death days, because you got to train. And we overtrained back then, 4 or 5 hours a week, 4 or 5 hours a day. I mean, and in splits. I mean, we're so stupid. But
it worked.
It did, because you just, but we could have been a lot better if we didn't overtrain, And of course, that's what you listen now. Athletes, your top bodybuilders don't train as much as we did. They're much smarter than we are today. And let's kind of just not talk about the drug side of it, because whether it be natural or not, I mean, it's kind of all of it's kind of there are a lot of different things about bodybuilding today than there were in my day. But, without a doubt, I mean, it's the same thing in pro sports. You look at pro athletes now, they don't train nearly what they did in the 80s. In the 80s, guys were breaking down all the time. Nowadays, because there's so much money in pro sports, they have to know how to train, and you can't overtrain. It's like in football. They don't even have contact in regular practice anymore. It's all thud speed, which is different because that it's just too much going on, and, a lot of things aren't good for the body. So, yeah. I mean, we learned about nutrition, and that was the most important part of our job. And that's how I got into it, because I got turned on by nutrition like just some light went on inside my body, because I saw what it did to me. When I was when I was in high school and living with this family, I didn't really have any food. So, I was like, before football practice, I was always starving, and I was never the guy that finished wind sprints anywhere near the top group, and I was never the guy that I was always tired, And then one day I happened to have access to like 5 sandwiches, right? And I ate them all before practice, and I ate them, and I went through practice, and my coach went up and everything goes like this: "What the hell got into you today? You're just beating everybody and everything."
Wow.
And that was the switch.
You knew
that was the day I knew it was 100% related. My energy potential is 100% related to nutrition. And from that point on, I just would study a little more about it, and now the things I do, with nutrition, I can, change your body in a week, and I can make you feel completely different in a day, because we know what we can do with nutrition nowadays. But I'm just saying that's where it started. That's what flipped the switch to nutrition over even training or anything.
We have so many fad diets and myths and everything today. Did you guys have it back then as well?
Oh, yeah. Well, not so much, because we were really locked in our world of how bodybuilders ate. So there was really no myths in bodybuilding. They just would write a different story about the same stuff.
Right.
Because you had to sell magazines.
Right.
But what happened was, to your point, the myths, and what I really set out to do in the 70s was to start to dispel these myths. And the myths were that everyone, weight loss market, whether it's been, I'm not putting these companies down, but Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or Nutrisystems, they were proliferating everywhere. Mm-hmm. And the reason was because people were gaining weight like crazy. And it really started in the 60s and 70s when life became sedentary. Mm-hmm. And then, fast food became, when I say fast food, I'm not necessarily knocking fast food, but the types of food that were very addicting. And French fries with the burgers with sauce are very addicting, So people are eating that, not moving, and everybody's starting getting into fat. So that, if you look at the obesity cycle, that's where it's, pretty much started in the 60s, 70s. So these weight loss places were coming up like crazy. And they were very low-calorie diets. They didn't even want you to exercise because, God forbid, you put on muscle. That would negate the weight you're taking off on a scale, and you were paying by your pound to lose weight. Yeah. So they didn't know anything about exercise, but they were, giving you low-calorie diets and so forth. I really wanted to get rid of that stuff. And then the phony testimonial, I wouldn't even call them phony. Maybe they were real, but that wasn't really the truth of what's going to happen to you. The rebound effect from some of these diets were really nasty. So my goal was to set out and kind of just get people on the straight and narrow,
right?
But nothing's really worked. And when it gets right down to it, if you look obesity, no one solved the weight loss, the weight gain crisis. It is. People ask me, what's the best diet? What's the one that works? It's the one that works for you.
Right.
End of day. It might be high protein. It might be a higher carb, end of day. But you do got to get some fruits and vegetables in there somewhere and just eat lean protein. And try to do it as many times a day as you can, but keep your calories a little bit less than you burn so you can lose the weight and then level off. And that's it. And there's no magic to it. But you got to move. The more you move, the more you can eat.
When you got into the world with Apex, and even before Apex with Gold's Gym, where did the thinking come from as far as creating the 5 components, which is what Apex was known for?
Yeah.
And the reason I ask that is, as myself as a trainer for the first time in 95, you come into NASM, and now I've been there for 3 years, and we're now going to hear the 4th or 5th nutrition expert to come in, and everybody kept changing how we were doing and what we're supposed to do, and you come in and spell it out. Within 5 minutes, it was everybody's eyes just wide open, and it was so simple. So if there was a thought process for you, how did it come about? It's these 5 components, but in particular, in the order that they were in,
right.
It all made sense to us.
Yeah. And it just evolved over time to put them in 5 components. It was something that we were doing naturally as bodybuilders. If you can save and build muscle while you lose body fat, well, if you tell that to a doctor For someone that's impossible. You can't do that because you're going to lose muscle. And if you look at all your studies, every pound of weight lost conventional diet-wise, a quarter to a half is muscle. Now, the bigger the deficit of the diet, the more muscle you lose.
That's strictly diet without resistance training.
Well, now even with resistance training, you can lose muscle while you're dieting. Mm-hmm. Really, you can, and it's not uncommon. And not only that, if you're obese, it's okay to lose muscle because that muscle came from carrying all the extra fat around. So that's not too bad. But the idea, when you would look at people and tell them, I can actually build muscle while I'm losing body fat, you look at some person that's a scientist and they just go, you can't do that. It's just mathematically impossible. I said, so the 5 components, I go, this is what we do, right? So, our food intake decides, okay, what we're trying to do is starve fat and feed muscle. So our food intake is going to be either more than the calories we burn if we're trying to put on muscle, or it's going to be less than the calories we burn if we're going to lose fat. But what if I want to lose fat and put on muscle? Well, now it gets tricky. Mm-hmm. So you take your calories down below the calories you burn, and now your body is going to use your tissue. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it's more fat tissue. And resistance training, to your point, resistance training directs your body to use fat rather than muscle because you need it. Yep. You need muscle, you're proving it to you. But it doesn't always protect it perfectly. Mm-hmm. And you can look at almost any study will show you that. You can still lose a little bit of muscle during that period. So as we're now taking fat away and even a little bit of muscle, and our second component then at that particular time is looking at, we would also add cardiovascular work. And the reason we would add the cardiovascular work, okay, the first point where diet is a little bit less than the calories we burn, but cardiovascular work allowed us to have more calories. So, and we direct it to you, and we would get to that cardiovascular area where we were just kind of, burning fat, a little extra fat for like, say, 20 minutes. And then the big one, now you've got, what you've got now is you've got a bigger deficit, right? And you've got food that's giving you your energy and so forth. It can't be too big a deficit, but you're also kind of directing body from a cardiovascular standpoint to use fat, right? And then you're getting to your third, and that is now you've got this deficit. Now you're going to feed that deficit with nutrition without calories. And that was a supplementing piece. Mm-hmm. And that was the magic to the whole thing. Supplementing with your amino acids, with proteins, with less calories. So you're stripping it from food. You're taking your multivitamin mineral because you're losing that from the tissue, from your muscles during that whole period. So now you're putting it back. You're putting all that stuff back in. And then the fourth, of course, was resistance training.
Right.
So that was the fourth component now. So now you're giving the muscle a reason to stay there. You've got work doing your cardiovascular work, getting rid of this, and you've got your fat decreasing diet, if you will. And then the fifth one was the constant adjustment, because every week you're going to have to make an adjustment because your body will change that quickly when you're putting it all together. And that's where the trainer came in. Yep. And that's why it was so important for, I always said, you got to have someone's going to measure your body fat because the scale's not going to work. You're going to have to use the body fat because you're going to be putting on muscle and it's going to piss you off if you're not losing weight.
That's right.
And it's okay over time because you look 10 times better, but in the first few weeks, people would get pissed off in the gym. Yeah. They would go, God, I've gained 2 pounds. I mean, my pants fit better and everything else, but I want to lose the weight. We'd have to sell them on the idea. So we had to measure their body fat and go, oh, okay, because they can see the body fat going down on a scale. They can actually read it. That made them happy. Right. Yeah. So we had to do that. So that's how the 5 components came. Okay. And by the way, I wrote the 5 components on a long plane trip to Africa.
Really?
Yeah, I was doing a seminar, a group of clubs, the Virgin Atlantic, I think that's the name of them now, but they were a sport and health club back in the day, South Africa.
Okay.
And so I was just saying, I got to put all this down. So this was 1993.
Wow.
So I wrote the 5 components on that plane trip. 92. But I've already been doing it and kind of teaching it, but I never really put it all together in one and then stamped it out. And then we used that in 24-hour fitness. We used it around the world forever.
Oh, for us trainers, that was...
Yeah, that was the magic formula.
It's exactly it. That was, for a lot of us, that was our aha moment.
Yeah, because, the problem with supplements is that's another one of those nasty worlds. You know what I mean?
Right.
With so much crap and things out there.
Today.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Well, not just that, but I mean, but back then, you had... the muscle magazines talking about putting on 30 pounds of muscle, just take this amino acid or something like that, and it was crazy stuff. But let's be absolutely true here. You do need to supplement if you're going to put on muscle and lose body fat at the same time. It's impossible not to. And plus, anytime you're in a calorie deficit, you're in a nutrient deficit.
Correct.
And you've got to at least get the nutrition back in just from a health standpoint.
Correct.
During those type of dieting and so forth. So it's almost criminal not to supplement during that. But that's just simple little stuff like multivitamins, fish oils, and things like that. But to put on muscle, using the essential amino acids before and after a workout, using protein in that window before and after a workout are important things that we learned over the years that can make all the difference in the world.
So you went from Apex to NASM?
Yeah, Apex was the first company I started. And then what happened with NASM, and to Mike's point, when I started there, all I did was I actually licensed the name. And I licensed it in 96, I think, to use the name. Bob Goldman still owned it. He was the founder of it. And then I used it, and I built another course. So we had the 5-day course, which is the one you took, and which was the crazy one. I mean, no one in the world had ever done anything like that. I mean, NASM was this diamond in the rough when I discovered it. Tom Purvis and Nick Simon, those guys were the bomb. They were the bomb. I just loved listening to them. Yeah, and they're still around. At least Tom's still big time. And so I licensed the name. I said, listen, I got to build another course. That's just too long. I can't put it in our clubs because I can't get trainers to do that. So we built a 2-day course. Yep. And then we got the 2-day course, and a 5-day course would be the advanced course. And then we had Tom taught them all, and Mitch. And then I brought in some more. We grew so fast. It was crazy. And then we grew so fast, I go, I'm building someone else's company. It's not even mine. I just licensed the name. So I kind of put the feet to the fire to them and said, I'm going to walk away and do my own thing. And they said, okay, well, we'll sell it to you. So I bought it in 97, I think. 98, right in there. I bought it. And then I brought in Mike Clark's team because I didn't know anything about exercise. I was a bodybuilder. What do we know about exercise? I was just one big guy, right? So I brought in Mike Clark, and that's where we got the OPT model. I bought his company and merged him to put him in there. I made him a partner after about 3 or 4 years, and an equity partner, and we built it what it is today, the biggest in the world, and it still is today. In fact, I'll be speaking at their conference here next month, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Spectacular.
Yeah, at the Optic conference.
How did you find Michael?
Someone told me about him. In fact, it was Rod Korn, which is one of the guys I work with today, even because we have we have PTA Global now. He was the one that introduced me. He said, you got to listen to this guy. This guy's phenomenal. So I listened to him. We met, and I go, okay, this guy definitely sounds like he's got it all here. And so he was working with a bunch of athletes at the time. Not that I really cared about that. That wasn't important to me, but that was kind of his business. But I realized that this is where that connection happened. I realized that the training of the future isn't, what we were teaching people and, the sets and reps and fixed planes of motion and so forth. It really was going to be more physical therapy, which was functional training. Yep. And Gary Gray, give him most of the credit for being the father of that, so he helped us a lot with NASM. Mike took it kind of to a different level. Correct. With OPT and really took functional training a different place. And when we started putting it in our gyms, certifying people through NASM and functional training, and like we were doing with the OPT model, I mean, we took more heat. Trainers resisted it. They didn't want to do it. I mean, every pioneer's got arrows in his back, and nobody had more than me. I can tell you that right now, because we challenged tradition. We changed the world overnight in gyms. It took us like 5 years, but I'm saying that's basically overnight, considering what they were doing before and what they're doing today. You look at it, it really all started with NASM. Correct. With what we did at that particular point. Yeah.
Yeah, well, bodybuilding set up our industry.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah.
It was the foundation for personal training. And to go from, fixed planes of motion to, okay, now we're going to go and explore different planes of motion. There's more than one, guys, that we can do in a training session. Yeah. I can see that there would be some resistance with it. Do you remember some of the numbers that you did when you first came on to NASM? What were they doing before? And then when you switch it from that 5-day course to the 2-day course, how did it change for them?
I can give you a rough estimate. I know they were doing about 25. How many were there? 20 guys in your class? Let's just give me an example.
Probably.
Yeah. So they were doing that every 2 months. So they would certify 20 people every 2 months.
And let me jump in there for a second. Okay. They were so proud that they had a 40% passing rate.
Yeah, right.
Back then. Right. And Neal comes in, and I remember the conversation we had back then, and he said, this isn't a business. What are you doing? Yeah. But that was the whole thing. If you made it through NASM, it was a cult.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were in.
Yeah, it was.
And you were proud to put that on your card and everything, but as a business person, what is this?
Yeah, exactly.
This makes no sense.
Yeah, it wasn't. And it was a nonprofit organization, and Bob Goldman had a lot of other stuff going on at the same time. So he kind of let people use it as a platform to kind of sell the stuff they were doing. Yep. That's kind of how Purvis certainly built his business.
Oh, absolutely.
He absolutely started there. But, the other thing about the 40% passing rate, I would look at it and go like this, well, you should be embarrassed of that. It just means you're doing something really wrong. Whether you're not teaching them the right stuff that's on the test, or the test is really screwed up, So you can't blame the students for a 40% passing rate. But I know that was their bragging rights, back then, which, of course, you have to change now. You can't even have that now with the NCCA accreditation. You have to have a higher passing rate. Yeah. Not that you get people answers, but you got to make sure that people understand what you're teaching them. And the test is the only way to kind of prove that. But we moved it then. We started doing, because don't forget, I had a distribution channel. See, the beauty of business, and especially for us, was that whatever business we buy or whatever business we take over, like just today, Mark and I just bought a couple more businesses, and we can take that, make that a good product, and then drop it into our distribution channel and successful. So I took NASM and dropped it into our Apex distribution channel. We were in 2,000 clubs around the world at that point. So I would just go into the trainer, say, listen, this is a new certification. Everybody kind of want to do this, and we've got this course out there. So next thing you know, we're doing 2,000 certifications a month.
Wow.
So we blew it up.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. I wouldn't say the next thing you know. It took a few years to get there.
Right.
But we got there.
One of the things that I've heard over the years of people talking about, and I can tell you when it was for me, and I'm always curious whether it's in fitness or outside of fitness and just business in general, is that aha moment. When did you have that aha moment of, I'm onto something? This is going to work. Okay, so I guess, you know what? It's a good question because I've had them more recently than I did back then. Back then, my head was down. My nose was to the grindstone. All I thought about was saving the world with fitness. I made that commitment when I was 23. When I said, fitness saved my life, I'm going to save the world with fitness. So I made that commitment. So I just kept working. Knowing that by surrounding myself with like people, you got to find, to be successful in business, you have to find people that work for you that have the same self-interest. And if you look at the people that work for me, you will see they also want to save the world. Mm-hmm. It's the ones that are mercenaries that are there for the dollar, and I have no problem with that because sometimes your best employee is the one that sells out for hard cash. Right. They'll do anything, right? Sure. Whatever you tell them to do, right?
But you're passionate about saving the world, and if you look at all the top people that have been with me for years and years and years, they're the people that really have the same heart and soul that I do. So that I just aligned myself with those people, kept my head down. Here's where we're going. We're just going to be, and we're going to make sure that everyone has the right information and everything else. But what the aha moment that I had is when I created the Body Bug. And the Body Bug was certainly the first activity monitoring device in the weight loss business. In other words, it wasn't just an accelerometer.
Right.
It was a really in free living measured calories properly. So I just attached our software to it so we could actually see how many calories you really burned, and then I built the program around that. And that was my aha moment when I said, you know what? I finally got to a point where I know this will make a huge difference in the world. Now, again, it was the beginning of calories being front and center. And since that day, I was part of a committee that actually was involved in making those decisions about getting calories printed front and center all the way around, because I was invited to this conference and I spoke at it, along with a Harvard professor. So here's a guy that never made it out of high school, barely. I've got to go with this Harvard professor. But they liked me more for some reason. These were all big top CEOs in the world of food companies, all of them, because they were worried about being sued by being the next tobacco, right?
Really?
They were all these companies. So they brought me in undercover and they said, listen, we're going to talk about what do we need to do. And I said, you got to start telling people how many calories are on stuff, and you got to call it out front and center so that you're not the bad guy. So they can make their decisions and so forth. And I went through the thing with the Body Bug and I showed them what we do and all this. Right. And that really changed the world. And then, of course, all the knockoffs you've seen, all the activity monitoring device came from that. They all came from the Body Bug. The Body Bug was ugly. It was a big old thing on your arm. But that's the only way you can accurately measure calorie burn. The other things out there, like whether it be Fitbit, again, I'm not knocking the company, or any of the other ones, Jawbones, or any of these things that had come out, they're not accurate. They're not even close in many different things. They're accurate in some activities, but they're not in others. And I'm this psycho for being accurate that I had to have a clinical device. And the Body Bug was a clinical device. It had all the white pages that proved that it was the best measuring tool for calories and free living that there was. And so I was able to build a good program around it. And we were wildly successful. We sold millions and millions. Because it got in The Biggest Loser. Because it was the first. The Biggest Loser put it on. And we were on the ground floor for the first 4 or 5 years of The Biggest Loser. So I did the seminar for all the contestants. as they came aboard in the very beginning. And so we were deeply involved with that show, and the bodybuilder could tell us how many calories they were burning. Crazy amounts, needless to say. Too many. I wouldn't put a customer through that. That's for sure.
Right.
A client through that. But yeah, so that was an aha moment for me. But nowadays, I've got this, the thing I call play span. And there's lifespan, there's health span, right? Those are the two things that we all know. Life is how long you live, and health span is how long you're really functionally able to take care of yourself, in life. And that's what we call health span. And unfortunately, there's a big gap between the two in the United States. We spend the last 10 years of our lives on machines or triple bypasses or whatever, and no one wants to do that. Then there's play span. How long are you able to do the things you love to do, right? So if you're a cyclist, your goal would be your play span lasts as your lifespan. That means by the time you're 100 years old, you went on your last bike ride. You came down, parked the bike in the garage, and you died.
Yep.
Okay, you're a golfer. You're on the 18th green, right?
Yep.
You make your last putt, but you're 102 and you die. But you were doing what you love to do. You weren't doing as well as when you were 25, but you're still doing it. So I call that play span. So I've been around doing a world tour. I just got back from China and England about what do you have to do to take your play span to that level. And so from a nutritional standpoint, what do you need to do? From an exercise standpoint, you need to stay active, obviously, and keep your weight down. But from a nutritional standpoint, there's just certain things that you need to do. So I've got this really unique formula of, simple multivitamin. If you're not getting fish 2 to 4 times a week, an omega-3 that gets your omega index up to a certain place, and your multivitamins, your multivitamin mineral formula would cover anything your food isn't covering, but you got to eat the best you can, obviously. And the same thing with calcium if you're getting, and you have to do it all from womb to tomb. So it's not like you can just start when you're 70. There's nothing curative about, I won't say nothing curative about nutrition as a whole, but there's nothing curative about supplements. They're strictly preventative. If you can fill your gaps throughout life, you won't break down. I'm not talking, obviously there's genetic things that you can't avoid, but that's a very tiny, tiny percentage. No one's a prisoner of their genes. And 80% of all the problems that we have right now related to health are just from bad habits. And if you can nutritionally keep your body whole, and it's just a couple little simple things that you can do, you can play to the end. That's really what the goal is. So I had that aha moment on that whole thing. Because the deeper I get into supplements, the more, and to know that you can do them right rather than wrong.
Right.
The more I know what we can do, because we weren't supposed to live this long. I think that's the big thing. I mean, when you realize we're all supposed to die in our 30s, but we cheated death. Alexander Fleming invented penicillin. Shame on him. The world changed the next day, and average lifespan was 49, and now went almost overnight to 70. Now we're at 79 in the U.S., but we don't live well. We don't live well the last 10 years. Health span is only 68. So again, I think that's the big aha moment I had was at that point. Where I realized, I really have something very, very big right now, very, very big that the world needs to know. And if every parent knew that, they'd make sure their kids had what they needed. Right now, because every parent has seen their parent break down.
Absolutely,
they've seen their parent either go through heart failure. They've seen their parent go through osteoporosis. They've seen them breaking their fall. They fall. They've seen all these things happen, or Alzheimer's or dementia. Most of these things are preventable by filling your body with all the stuff your body can actually use while it can use it. It's too late after. When it can't use it anymore, You can stuff it all in there you want. It ain't going to do any good.
Right.
So anyway, that's what I'm on to now.
Love it.
Why does it seem to be such an issue for the general population to understand that it's 80% nutrition, or that exercise plays such a role in our health span and in our lifespan? Why doesn't it seem to be clicking for people?
Well, it's not. I don't think it doesn't click. I think what you've got is just the resistance to it, because the hardest thing to do is change behavior, and eating is such a behavioral thing. And to get someone to eat properly, there's no way in the world people don't know how to eat properly if you live in the U.S. and if you've made it through high school.
Yeah, it's amazing that I still have clients asking me today, what should I eat? I'm like, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. I do that. So I'll have a room for 1,000 people in a room, overweight people, and I'll go like this. So do I really have to tell you how to eat? Why are you asking me that question? Okay, let me ask you this. What's better? Salmon for your protein or a fried steak? Okay, so they laugh. Okay, they go, okay, skinless chicken, okay, or a pork sausage. Okay, I mean, do I really need to tell you? Okay, lean protein. Fruits and vegetables. Oh, should you eat those, or should you have a Coca-Cola or a soda with sugar in it? Which one? What do you think?
Right.
Okay, white rice or wheat rice? What do you think? So I said, well, so why are we having this conversation? All you need to know is if you want to lose weight, you have to eat less. But now, again, I know it's not the most palatable thing. If you're used to eating fried foods with ketchup and sugar and all that, it's very hard to break that cycle, and that's why they're resistant. So they're looking for some magic little world different thing that goes, oh, God, that tastes great, and I can do it. That's just not going to happen because it would have happened a long time ago. Mm-hmm. It really is just finding creative ways to make food taste good that isn't fried and got sugar all over it or fat all over it, because those are the things that we're addicted to. Unfortunately, that's evolution. We're addicted to sugar, fat, and salt. So, and every food scientist knows that. So they make food that way till you get addicted to it. And it's just not really good for you,
right.
At the end of the day. So you got to figure out how to, work around those things. So that's what it is. It's they understand it. They really do. What they sometimes they don't understand is that you have to eat less calories than you burn. And people don't know how many calories they really burn.
That's the big one.
And that's what it really comes down to. But you know what? There's one thing that doesn't lie, and that's the measurement. I like this. People lie, measurements don't. Math doesn't. And so I make it real simple. Well, that ain't working. Okay. So
I was telling Cameron at one point, I've heard your lecture so many times, just as you were just saying that people lie, measurements don't, that I almost could have done it word for word because it was made so simple for all of us to understand. And then if we wanted to go deeper into it, we were able to. And I thought that was great for the industry.
See, making it to the gym is what? 30 minutes a day, 40 minutes a day, hour a day, right? 23 hours left to eat. That's hard.
Yeah.
To eat right, it's really hard.
Yep.
Because if you're hungry, and let's say you ever been really hungry, like you miss a meal, you've been really starved, and you got a steaming lasagna smothered in cheese over here, and then you got skinless chicken and broccoli over here. Well, of course you want this one. Are you kidding me?
Right.
And that's what your average person looks at, and that's the way they are. At some point, they give in. And then they go, oh, I screwed up. I might as well just finish screwing up.
Yep.
And which is obviously the wrong answer, but I'm just telling you, that's kind of, so eating is really difficult. I mean, it's a significant behavior change. You have to want it. So I always tell people it's motivation. There's no magic diet. You got to find one that works for you and make it as healthy as possible. But it's how motivated are you? If I had a gun to your head like this and I said, you screw up, I'm going to pull the trigger, you would do exactly what you were supposed to do. If I said, I'll give you $2 million on December 31st, if you lose 40 pounds and it's June, you will lose 40 pounds. That's motivation. We get all these stars ready for their movies and stuff like this, and people always go, God, come on, they all get to their goal. Well, they get paid $20 million for a movie. You do whatever I tell you to do.
It's their job.
Right, exactly.
That's
right. So that's the motivation. You make a living that way. I make a living being in shape. So I do curtail what I eat. I love to drink. Scotch and chocolate are my two favorite foods. I always tell people that I lived a Spartan life as an athlete, right? I ate clean. I didn't drink anything really until after I retired, right? So I can eat all the scotch and chocolate I want. I'll die of old age before that'll kill me now. So you guys that drank early, you're screwed. Okay. But anyway, of course I would love to do a lot of other things and eat bad, or when I say bad, there's things I just stay away from. But that also gets you get addicted to eating good. I always tell people, just do it for a few months, and then you won't crave those same foods you used to crave. It's only in the beginning when you go crazy craving that pizza when you're losing weight, And I think we all did as bodybuilders, of course. We couldn't wait till we finished. But, we made a living being bodybuilders, so of course you had to clean up your diet. You go bad for a week, then go back to it, That's what I like about some of these new things that are out there. I always like, someone's going to, maybe something good, like the intermittent fasting diet stuff, right? That's all taken from us as bodybuilders, because we would go 3 days low, 1 day high. So you go 3 days, pretty much all protein, you're even down below 50 grams of carbs, which is some of these intermittent fasting days. We did that for years in the 80s. And then you have a day where you load up the carbs and stay glycogen loaded, and it would last you till you'd be miserable by the second day, but then you go back to you always knowing it right around the corner, you pretty much ad lib, you could ad litem, eat what you needed, what you wanted. So that always worked. And so that's just an old bodybuilding thing kind of tweaked around another way. But the only problem with that, you can't be an athlete and do that. But you can, for a regular person, it's something you can at least try it and see if that makes a difference. Otherwise, I like the higher protein approach, where, about 50% of your calories are protein. And then the rest of it's, fruits and vegetables and carbs that comes out to about the other 50. You don't have to look for fat. The fat's in the protein, so you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Now, have those numbers for you changed over the course of the years?
Absolutely. No question. That's a good question, Mike. Yes, they have. Ideally, if I could get everybody to eat good carbs instead of bad carbs,
Right.
which would be like, your whole wheat type products and, some of the vegetables and, even starchy stuff is good as long as you eat the skin with it.
Right.
Right. And get the fiber and stuff. You can go as high as, 60%. And that's what we used to tell people.
Yeah.
60%, maybe 20% protein, 20% fat. Right in
Exactly.
there was probably the number we would put out there. And we could do that. But most people are too sedentary to, you don't need to do that. You're going to be more satiated. We've learned now that protein is far more satiating than all of these things together, except very high fiber. High fiber is always going to be, because it fills your stomach up and it kind of keeps you from eating.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever just dump in about, 20 grams of fiber in one meal, let me tell you, you don't want to be in the same room with other people. but I will tell you that I really don't bloat your stomach and kind of quell the appetite a little bit. But yeah, protein is more satiating. So I always, as people get older, they become less, and just because you go to the gym 5 days a week, there's still another 163 hours in the week that you're sitting on your butt at work because you make a living sitting down, right?
Yep.
So you can't call yourself active just because you go to the gym 5 days a week. You can't. That's not active. So you don't need the carbs, right? You don't need nearly as many as we used to tell people. As you get older, you can go down around 40. There's nothing wrong. The zone diet works, and we used to make fun of it in the old days because we were very active. Because we were so active, we were miserable eating 40% carbs as active.
Right.
And I was an active athlete. Even I played, I started playing, went back and played adult basketball after I retired from bodybuilding. So yeah, my calorie was always around there. But we don't tell people that anymore. We say, stay close to that 40, 30, 30 is probably a good number, like a South Beach type diet. I've watched just people, you gravitate towards that as you get less and less mobile. And I am definitely less mobile than I was, only because I travel. I live in airplanes, and It's not like the old days where you can walk on an airplane. They get really pissed at you if you do now. And so I don't get to move nearly as much. I'm pretty much trapped with my job.
Right.
So you sold Apex, went in with NASM, or...
Well, no, I had both at the same time.
You had both at the same time. How did DotFit come to be?
Because what we did is I merged Apex into the parent company of 24 Hour Fitness. So that's how Mark and I met. Mark started 24 Hour Nautilus, and then you had Ray Wilson with Family Fitness, and Mark put together an equity group that merged those two companies together and became 24 Hour Fitness. And Mark was just that brilliant man that is Mark Masterov. That he's 10 years younger than me, but he's at least 20 years smarter than me. So he realized all the top Gold's gyms in the country, they were doing more in personal training than they were in memberships. No one had ever done anything like that, but it was because of the nutrition program. Because we made the trainers do nutrition. You can't do personal training without nutrition. We made them do it.
That was a Gold's Gym nutrition.
That was Gold's Gym. Yeah. Well, no, this was Apex. Because don't forget,
okay.
I left Gold's Nutrition Analysis. I left that with them, but they couldn't do anything without me.
Yeah.
I took the whole company with me. So we formed Apex, and so all the Golds were going to stay with me. They weren't going to stay with that program, so they stayed with wherever I went. So that's what we did. So we had a good 200 Gold's gyms that had Apex.
Okay.
So Mark goes around looking at all these gyms and goes, hell, let's just buy these gyms. It's going to be a lot easier. So I always make the joke in my keynote lectures. I go, so Mark just went out there and got these guys together and bought like 100 Gold's gyms in 2 days. It was unbelievable how he swept through the place, and all the big ones in San Francisco and Oregon and Washington and Hawaii and all these ones in Texas. He bought them all up. So I go, all of a sudden, Mark's half my business, right? Because they had all the Apex programs in these clubs,
right?
And I'm half his business because I'm the guy controlling all the personal training. So he goes, we got to do a deal here. So we did. So I took Apex and we kept it a wholly owned subsidiary, and it stayed under the Fitness Holdings Worldwide, which is the parent company of 24 Hour Fitness at the time. So we kept it as a wholly owned. Then we sold 24 Hour Fitness in 2005 to Fortsman Little. And it was a huge sale. In fact, we sold it for $1.68 billion, and $700 million was because of the nutrition program. Wow. Yeah, because that's how much it contributed to the bottom line.
Wow.
And we sold for a 10 times multiplier. We had $100 million in nutrition a year, and we had big margins because the fact that's what Mark, the genius he is. That's why he bought Apex and put it in there, because now your margins are not 50%, they're 70% because you own the company you're buying from.
Right.
So that's how we ended up with this crazy EBITDA. Yeah, well, he was brilliant. Yeah, he was way smarter than me. That's why we're still partners today.
Right.
So that was a great sale. We all made out, obviously very, very well. I got paid twice because I got paid for Apex and then for that as well. And then NASM, I kept NASM, of course. And I owned it. Mark and I were never partners in that. I kept that. So as we moved on, when we sold that, I stayed on at 24 Hour Fitness because I had to kind of contractually help them kind of move in with this new group. But I didn't like being confined because they rolled Apex up into 24 Hour Fitness. So now Apex was no longer a wholly owned subsidiary. They wanted it for themselves. Well, you can't say that to me because I got to save the world, right?
Right.
So I left them in 2008 to start DotFit. So DotFit is nothing more than an evolution of Apex. And I kept NASM during the time, but we sold NASM right at the 2010, right in there. We sold NASM, and I used a lot of those things because DotFit is a huge, giant platform. But I still have all the intellectual property of NASM in there as well. We sold them at that time because everything was just it was a perfect world. It was a perfect storm at that particular time. And needless to say, it wasn't just a lot of money. It was just the right thing to do so I could take DotFit really to the next level. I dumped in millions and millions and millions into it to be able to get it to the next level. And of course, that's where it is today. So DotFit is really the evolution of everything we have done. It is just the sort of the final generation of what we're trying to do to save the world. So it's got the combination, holistic platform of everything. And then that's why we just bought these new companies. I don't have a no compete with NASM anymore. So we started, PTA Global and bought that, and we're going to take that and kind of keep it confined to the gym. No, I don't want to compete with NASM. That's my baby, and I'll always love it, and always have the greatest respect for it and everything else. But PTA Global is going to really we really need it for our health clubs because it's really going to target the trainer in the health club and how to endear themselves to the client. So that it's not, we always like to say, we don't just create training sessions, we create an experience. So you got to be more than that. We train the person inside the body, not just the body. And that's really what PTA Global is about. That's going to separate it in the gym business. We need that for our gyms. So that's what we're doing now.
Something that's critical to that point that Mike taught me when we first started our mentorship, when he first started mentoring me, was more so interpersonal skills. So relating to the client, going deep with them. Are you guys working on something like that right now with PTA Global?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, if you look at our behavior change and exercise course, that is a advanced CEC for and so clubs buy that more than they buy our certification because diesel. So yes, that is something that we really specialize in. That's really all we're doing is working on that aspect of it the most. And I'm not the expert in that. We've had, Bobby Capuccio. We had him. He's a big part of creating that course, behavior change and exercise. We're just polishing it up, cleaning it up, and making it a big part of the curriculum. Because yes, that's really what the focus is. We just made a new foundations course. It's only 10 hours. You could take your favorite customer service person you ever met, whether it be a waiter or a waitress in a restaurant, someone in a hotel, and say, "Do you want to be a trainer?" And they would say, and if they said, "Yeah, I'd love to be," because that's the person you want as a trainer. They know how to relate to people, right? Yep. And they're just good. They're outspoken and all this. And so, okay, they could take this 10-hour course and go on the floor and train somebody. Now, they still have to serve an internship with one of our trainers, but that's our foundation. That leads to the PTA Global certification. But it really deals with that. How do you get inside the person's head and design a workout they want to do? Diesel, come here. Sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry. Got Neal's dog here.
Yeah, sorry. Come on, Diesel.
Just wants to be loved.
Well, let's stop petting him, and then he won't. He's old, real old. Okay. Diesel. Come on. Let's go, dog.
It's like I can't back up, Dad.
All right. So, yes, that is a big focus of ours, working on the client-trainer relationship.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things for me is just being able to communicate with somebody because, I took pride in myself before on, okay, my clients just come in, I kill them in their workouts, they're out of here. But I think something with my retention changed when I started to connect with somebody more on a deeper level and listen a little bit better. It's something that I feel that a lot of the big certification companies don't do very well right now.
Agreed.
And that is something that PTA Global is looking to do. You guys are out for world domination right now. You are with DotFit and PTA Global and then PT on the Net, correct?
PT on the Net, trainer membership for building their careers.
Yeah.
So you can turn your passion into your profession. That's really what we like to say with that one, and give them all those tools. Exactly what you're talking about. That's what trainers need. They need to be able to identify. And now, the other thing is that there's a big shift from individual one-on-one training to small group. Mm-hmm. And small group is just as important to connect. I think the thing that we do in PTA Global is teach people we want the clients. We have this we have this program design questionnaire, very comprehensive. We want the client to tell us how they want to work out. The old saying of package what they need into what they want. So let them tell you, I'd like to train that. Yeah, this. Okay. And you take all your notes and you put it back, and then goes into our little algorithm. It creates you get to pick the kind of program. This one is designed to them. So that's why we call it behavior change and exercise. We use the exercise to change your behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Match it to the personality of the client.
Yeah. And that takes, that's just getting to know the client.
Right.
It takes
Yep,
time.
exactly.
I even tell them, it's going to take me a little bit. I need to get familiar with you.
Yes.
And how you operate, how you communicate, how you interpret information, and also how you learn how to do certain exercises, which it takes time. It's building that relationship.
Yep.
I don't know, Mike, you have anything to touch on that?
No, I mean, that was back in NASM days, which we discussed, was having that not only the interpersonal skills of, okay, you've now learned how to train somebody, but everything from how do you build your business, but also as a trainer, how do you hold yourself and hold yourself accountable for the information that you now have. I remember probably one of the great seminars of many that I went to is 3 hours into the initial opening lecture with Lenny Parasino, and Lenny stopping and saying, raise your hand. How many of you right now are collecting money as a trainer? Keep your hands up. Everyone kept their hands up. How many of you believe your clients think you already know this stuff? Everybody's hand went down. He says, isn't that crazy? Mm-hmm. And that was the reality, is that we didn't have, back in the day, we winged it.
Yeah, that's right.
We didn't have a platform to show us everything. And that's what you guys have absolutely developed for us.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, to be a trainer back in my day, you just had to be the biggest guy in the room.
Yep.
and you were the most successful
biggest
trainer.
arm or the smallest butt for a girl.
That was it. Yeah,
that was it.
And that was it back in the day. But
smallest butt for a girl?
Well, that was always his line, is that back in the day, the guy trainers were the ones with the biggest arm and the girl had the smallest butt. And those were the ones that had the most clients. And that was it. And there was no arguing with it back then.
That's flipped for the female role.
Oh, yeah, it has.
Yeah. Boy, has that definitely changed. I mean, so much has changed. And all for the better. I mean, people are, to train, to go to a gym and work out by yourself for the first time is just ridiculous. I mean, that's just, everyone needs a trainer in the beginning. And most gyms will give you at least 1 or 2, 3 free training sessions, because a lot of people can't afford it. You just got to figure out how to do it. That's what I like about small group. At least you're getting people in there, you're getting them moving and getting community and some social stuff. So all of our gyms now, you have to master small group. We still do there's probably no club organization out there that does more one-on-one personal training than we do. Mm-hmm. It's by square footage or anything. In our clubs, we're really good at it. But when I say good at it, we're good at selling it, we're good at delivering it, and we're good at following up on it. So we do a really good job with that. But the small group is just taken over. And for lots of good reasons, and it gives other people a chance to work out for less money, at the same time with the community.
What are some of the challenges you face today that you didn't see coming, maybe, that were different from back in the early 90s even? I mean, we don't even have to go back to the 70s.
Yeah.
But
well, what we see in business coming, what really changed the world, another genius move by Mark, was the $9.95 membership. The low price, high volume. We call them low price, high volume gyms. It changed the landscape of the health club business. It wiped out so many clubs' ability to serve people because they couldn't make enough money because they were selling memberships for $30 or $40 or $50 or $60 a month, and people were they would lose a significant number of their members to the $9.95 club. So the low price, high volume, and it's not going away. No. It's here to stay. Yeah. So what's happened is what Mark did, the genius of Mark again. Of course, when the equity group, when we took over Crunch's training and all that, they were doing average $50,000 a month in personal training. They're small clubs, 25,000 square feet. But when we came in, after fast forward 2 or 3 years, we took it up to $215,000 a month on average. Some of them doing $300,000 a month just by adding our nutrition and our personal training. But it's also $60 to $90 a month for membership. Mm-hmm. So when all these low price, high volume marketers, I'll fix that. So the reputation of Crunch is now built way up, right? It's just this high end, it's all this great stuff. Take the brand, franchise it, and make them all the franchises low price, high volume. So they're all $9.95s with that brand. And then build a good personal training program inside. Right. So that's the brilliant. That's why Crunch Franchises is probably the fastest growing franchise anywhere in the world today, of all the club groups. And they're doing, the reason is because they're doing very well in the personal training side. Some of them don't, because a lot of the owners didn't come from our world. They might be an they were restaurant owners or barbershop owners or something, and wanted to get into a business, and they don't really know how to do personal training very well. So a lot of them don't do great at it. But to many of them that came from our world and are using what we do, because we give them the information to do it right, and then they actually implement it, then they'll do really well for the low price, high volume. Another group, the Edge Fitness up in Connecticut, where I'm heading out there next week or so. They've mastered the low price, high volume. They'll actually build their gym, $9.95 and $19.95 are the two different memberships, right across the street from a $9.95 like Planet Fitness, and take all their members, because they'll build a 50,000 square foot club. It's got everything in it at that. So they figured out how to compete against those. So it's an amazing dynamic what's going on in the industry right now. But that's I didn't see coming. The $9.95 gym, I did not see that hurting everybody so badly as it did. And they did great. Don't get me wrong. And Planet Fitness is going nowhere. They're doing great, and those guys are, but they've taught us to grow up and figure out a different model. So that's what I love about competition. You just learn how to evolve, and you keep evolving.
With that, in the mid '90s, I know in this town, for instance, we had two clubs. We had the Westlake Sporthouse, and we had Body Focus.
Yeah. Go on, girls. No, go.
Out of nowhere, little boutique gyms start opening up, and little boutique gyms have opened up all over. And then all of a sudden, it seemed as if corporate gyms, like a 24-hour, figured out, hey, we already have our members. Why aren't we offering these classes that these boutique gyms are doing? And now you have the $9.95 gyms. Do you guys in the industry see the change of these boutique gyms going away and coming back into big corporate 50,000 square foot?
Both. No, I don't know. I don't see them going away.
Okay.
I see all your big corporate gyms are now bringing them in. They're doing their version of Orange Theory. They're doing their version of what's the other big one right now?
Soul Cycle.
Yeah. They're doing their version of these small boutique clubs.
Yeah.
But you're always going to have the person that wants to go to the small boutique club because it's more personal.
Yeah.
They have the money, and there's plenty of people that have the money to go. They don't want the crowds.
Yeah.
They don't want all the other things that go along with the big bucks. Right. So I think I only see right now the growth is in small clubs, what we call the small box, which is 3,000 to 5,000 square feet. That's where all the growth is.
Wow.
Big boxes grew less than 1% last year.
Wow.
Yeah. And all the growth came from the small boxes.
So let me ask you this, Neal, because
there's no overhead to start one.
Right.
That's another thing.
Right. Yeah.
Very little anyway.
Very little.
Yeah.
But
relative.
The $9.95 clubs, and they still have personal training. That value is significantly less. Is there a decrease in value for the personal trainer, or from the client perspective, do they see the personal trainer as having less value?
Well, no, they don't. If they sign up for personal training, they're assuming the trainer knows what they're doing, and they don't see anything. It doesn't mean that trainer is the best trainer. Mm-hmm. They're probably not going to know that, other than personality. People stick with people based on more than personality, and again, of course they get results too, but they won't stay with you if you don't get results. But if you got a great personality, you're probably going to get 3 or 4 more sessions out of someone than not. If you're just someone that just shows up and pushes pin, counts reps, and goes through the process. So most people won't know if they're going to sign up for it. But you don't get it nearly as many people signing up for it because they actually came in because the $9.95 is all they got.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're getting a different type of person in that door. But with the name Crunch, you're not so much. You're getting a better quality $9.95 person through there because of the brand.
Yes.
And again, I'm not trying to stoke our brand or anything.
Right.
But I'm just giving you an idea of how that kind of works overall. And then once you find out that the quality of personal training is good in there, then that kind of spreads the word and it kind of works. So generally, if you're hiring decent trainers, can a trainer make a living? That's the problem.
Yeah.
In a $9.95 club.
Right. That's
where it might be different, and then they're going to leave, and then you're just transient, and you're just hiring anybody to go in there. But that's pretty much on the owner of just, figuring out that model. Because most of these 995 don't do, like Planet Fitness, there's no personal training at all.
Correct.
They don't allow it.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's because that's their model. And I applaud them for sticking to their guns on that whole thing, because they've been an amazing business to watch.
Right.
And survive. They don't have any dumbbells any bigger than 65 or 70, right?
Really?
Yeah.
That's
a cut off at that number, and everything else. That keeps guys like Cameron out.
Yeah, I can't.
They don't want him in there. That's for sure.
I can't train there either.
I can't warm up my bicep curls with 65. Come on.
With you traveling as much as you travel now, are you seeing more people exercising as a whole?
What's hard to see, it's hard to tell, because I live in the world of people that exercise. So, you always think of it. But then when you start going out into different parts of the world and you're driving to your venue,
right,
and you see that everybody's overweight,
right?
People obviously don't work out. If they do, then they're doing something really wrong.
Right.
Okay? Go shopping in a store in Connecticut, and you're just looking around. And you're in Missouri, and you're shopping in Columbia, and you're just looking around, and then the reality hits. So the obesity number hasn't changed. Okay, so it hasn't moved. So, but there are you see more people starting exercise. You do see more people getting into it. Whether they're sticking or not is another thing. Right. But more people are trying it than ever, because they know they need to. I think we've really gotten to that plateau where you're probably not going to see the overweight percentage go up really anymore. It's probably going to plateau here. More people are going to delve into fitness and try it. And our job is to figure out how you can get them there. That's why I always loved about the Body Bug, and we had do it your way, not my way.
Right.
Just move more, figure it out, and just watch yourself move more, and just make sure you eat less. And then at least we can get these people that aren't exercisers like us. I always tell people we're the ones that are screwed up. Because the exercise isn't fun. I got news for you guys.
Right.
I know it is for us. And the first thing we do, we go on vacation, we look for a gym, because we're all screwed up. Something's wrong with us.
Exactly.
That's not the way human beings were supposed to go. You're not supposed to move unless you need to. You got to conserve energy for the next hunt, right? So that's in our DNA, not to move unless you need to. Take the path of least resistance always. It's pretty hard to undo that. Now start telling people to take the path of more resistance. Get up and walk. Well, I don't need to get up and walk. Yes, you do. I don't need to get up and get that. I can just sit here and do it all from my phone.
Right. No,
you got to get up and walk, because you're not moving anymore. You've got, our ancestors had to run after their food or run away from their food. So they had to save all their energy because they didn't have much food. Well, I know that's hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, and we're still wired that way. So we got to fight that. And that's the part. That's why it's not natural to exercise. We just have to find better ways to get people to get addicted to it. That's our job. Our job as fitness professionals, Cameron, as you know, is to get people addicted to fitness. And you got to find their sweet spot. It's the only way that's going to happen.
Yeah. And that's that connection of what makes them tick.
Yeah.
That's why there's so many boutique gyms popping up everywhere, because everybody's got their own little niche.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's a good point. Like. You're spot on there, Cameron. Yeah, I agree.
Neal, we're sitting here at your ranch, and this is such a beautiful thing. What are some experiences from your past that you're grateful for that shaped you to be where you are today?
Well, I think that, when growing up like I did with, without the parenting and living with the different families and so forth, my way of seeing life was my imagination. So I had an imagination. I always wanted to. I would picture an old British castle. I wanted to live there and have a garden outside the castle and all that. So that's what kept me sane when things were bad. There was times I had no food. I'm scrounging around for food, and I would always. But the way I would survive would just be mentally. I had this imagination. So for me. And I never thought about money. I just knew that whatever I do, I would do it well, and the money would come. So I never crossed my mind. In fact, when we first bought this place, and when you look at the place and you go like this, well, that's most people say. I don't think anybody's ever. It's the most amazing place I've ever seen, or something. And of course, there's many more amazing places, but a lot of people haven't seen something like this. So I remember when we first bought it, and Christina, we sat out here, my wife and I, we just closed. It took a year to close a deal. Because that's, buying a property like this is a long negotiations. Yeah. And so she looked at me, she looked around and she goes, "Can you believe we live here?" And I go, Yeah, you're right. I never thought of that. I never pulled my head up. I never stopped to smell the roses. I never celebrated any milestone in my life. And I regret that. And I've been telling my people ask, what's your one single regret? And that's my single regret is the fact that I never celebrated any milestone. At some point, you've got to sit there. And I'm not talking about celebrate like get drunk or anything. I'm talking about taking some time to really understand what you've accomplished and celebrate that you did something really, really big and worthwhile. And so I don't want my kids to go through that because they're very, very, very focused like I was. And they, and celebrating milestones is something really important. So I try to pass that on to everybody. That's one thing that I do regret. But that was it. It was just my imagination. And the next thing you know, I'm living that. The things that were in my imagination when I was 10 and 11 to keep me alive. Now I live in my imagination. And I always tell people, I was interviewed for a television show not too long ago, and I go, if you're lucky enough to buy your childhood, to buy what you wanted for your childhood, it is an amazing feeling. So I don't take ever, Cameron, I never, ever, ever take 1 minute of being here for granted. My wife does, and I know the kids do to a certain extent until their friends come over and they go, like this, and then the kids go, "Oh shit, I forgot about that. I forgot about this place."
Exactly.
I never ever do. I walk out that door every day, and I go like this. Wow, unbelievable. Everything is so unbelievable. I'm so appreciative. All of it.
Do you have other questions for Neal? Because I've got
I'm gonna start charging you here in a minute.
A host.
Not at the moment. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mike. Take it away.
So today, these are just some fun questions that kind of get us, Cameron and I, and everyone else that's going to be listening to this to get to know you more. What are some of your hobbies?
Oh, just horseback riding is all I do now.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. I'd play golf if I could. I've had so many surgeries on shoulders. When I fall off my horse, I just had 360 stitches put on the inside of my arm because I fell off when I was racing. So I'm not all together up here. When it comes,
we knew that.
I always lived on the edge. So when you go from motorcycles to horses, that's just a natural progression.
When did you get into horses?
Well, it's funny because my girlfriend before my wife, she was a barrel racer, one of the top barrel racers in the country back in the day, and I was like one of the top bodybuilders in the area up in San Francisco. So we had met, and she goes, "You ever been on a horse? You ever been on a horse before?" I go, "No." I think I was 32 at the time, maybe 33, something like that. And she goes, well, come out to the ranch here, and I'll put you on a horse. So I got in a horse, and the first day I fell in love with it. I was sitting on 2,000 pounds of muscle.
How big were you then?
265.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, when you're like me, I was a very physical guy, right? And muscle's just cool.
Yeah.
And a frickin' horse has got some muscle.
Yeah.
I go, and I get on that thing, and I fell in love totally. I bought 2 the next day. Wow. So but what happened was right then Golds was moving me to Venice, so I had to move to Venice. So I was only had a horse up there for like a year, but maybe 2. And I said, again, what'll happen is now I had to travel all over the world with Gold, so I was stuck doing that. I said, once I get married and have kids and coach my kids through sports and all that, I'm going to go buy a ranch, and I'm going to get horses again. And I stuck to that. 25 years later, got married, had kids. Right?
Yep.
I got married and had kids and coached my kids all the way through Pop Warner for football and everything and basketball and baseball. Dropped them off at high school. They continue to play and still play today.
Yep.
And I bought the ranch though, right when they went to high school. Before that actually, a year before, I bought this ranch, got the horses. So I lived up to my thing I said 25 years before that. And then I got the horses and I ride, pretty much all the time. So that's really the only that and gardening. I do. I love gardening, and you can tell here this place is pretty cool to just walk around and stroll around. And then I got a cactus garden that I take care of in one of the good different garden rooms over there. So between that and those are the 2 hobbies.
What's a perfect day for you?
Well, my days all start at 4 a.m. My days all start at 4 a.m. Nothing ever changes, no matter what time I go to bed.
You are a creature habit.
Well, yeah, it is. I am. Yeah, but the other part is, what happens is that I always feel like no one else is up, and I'm going to get a head start on the world. And not only that, my brain's clear. I no stresses of the day of business or anything else. I'm clear, and I go into my intellectual property work, and I do 3 hours of straight intellectual property work. Which right now for me, I write some very in-depth, comprehensive treatises, if you will, on ingredients and dietary supplements, and keep building it so we build better formulas than anybody else, and continue to be able to do that and support that. So that's pretty much what I work on most of the time. That's where I lock in those first, and then I go down to the gym, which we have actually a couple gyms here, but we have a big one down below, and I go work out for half an hour resistance training and core work and stuff. That's it, and then my wife and I go for a walk to the top of the mountain and come down with the dogs, and then I go to the office here on the lake and spend the rest of the day there, and then I come home and sometimes I'll ride, and that's a day I'll ride for an hour or so, something like that. Go back up the mountain with the horse, and we go over the cross. We have trails all the way to the ocean from here, so you can actually do that. It's 6 hours, but it's you can
Beautiful.
do it. And then and that's it really. And then after that, I love old movies, so I always like to try to watch part of an old movie, but I'll fall asleep in 15 minutes. So that doesn't take long. The TV puts me to sleep. But that's about it. So that's really a perfect day for me. I never leave here if I didn't have to, because this place that's why I bought it. Because I feel like I could be anywhere. I could be in Europe right now. I could be any part of the world, and we don't have any neighbors, and you're kind of open here. So that's the perfect day for me now.
If you won the lottery, what would change?
Oh well, nothing, because I have more than most people would win in the lottery.
I love it.
So there's nothing would change.
Perfect.
I'm already there. I got news for you guys.
Yeah. Perfect. That's awesome. Favorite color?
Green.
Favorite sound?
Favorite sound. Let me think here. That's a good one. You know what? I don't think that. No one's ever asked me that question before. I can't think about my favorite sound.
Iron clanging.
Oh, you know what? There you go. God, Cameron nailed it. Listen. If you go down to my gym, I have the old Weider Hoffman weights down there, and when I squat, I want to hear the plates rattle when I come up. So I do not put knockoffs. No knockoffs on the bars.
Rubbers, no
so
nothing.
You can just hear them clang. I love that. Yeah, he nailed it for me.
Perfect.
That's still my favorite sound.
Least favorite sound?
Yeah, least favorite sound, I guess. Well, I guess sound of a car crash or something.
Okay. Favorite food?
My favorite food is steak, without a doubt. But I'll go with a leaner steak. I don't like a real fatty steak.
Okay.
I like lean, but I love red meat. I love red meat.
Least favorite food?
It'd have to be a vegetable of some type I don't care about. I do like, as I've gotten older, I do like vegetables a lot more than I did when I had to eat them, throughout bodybuilding, because you had to fill your stomach when you're dieting, and you just load vegetables up. And when you're dieting, anything tastes good anyway. But my least favorite food, you know what? Avocado. Avocado's my least, yeah. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And everyone loves it. My wife loves it, but she would have come out and told you that.
Right.
If you'd asked her. Oh, Neal hates avocado. I had to hold the avocado. I take it off. She goes, don't bring it, and put it on the side, and she eats it.
Yep.
And it's good for you, so don't get me wrong.
It's
just I don't like it.
Just not your thing.
And butter.
And butter.
I've never had butter. I'll gag.
Really?
I gag on butter.
Really?
Yeah. So it's anything high fat. I guess that's what gags me.
So you're not putting butter in your coffee?
Oh no, definitely not. I know my fighter son does.
Favorite word?
Favorite word. You're getting into some tough ones there. I don't know. What is my favorite word? What's your favorite word? Let me ask you that.
Never been flipped on me.
Yeah, see, I'm just curious, because that's a tough one. I mean, it'd be something that I can pronounce that most people can't pronounce, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that.
Here's one that you'll appreciate. Favorite curse word?
Oh, well, I can't say it on the air.
You sure you can?
Well, it's the F word for
Okay.
sure. Are you kidding? I mean, I use that, and I have to when we have guests over here, I have to clear it. I go, listen, there's an old saying: you can take the kid out of the street, but you'll never get the street out of the kid. And every other word that comes out of my mouth is the F word.
Right.
And I use it as a noun, an adjective, an adverb. It is everything.
Absolutely.
It is my favorite word in the world.
Who would you like to have dinner with, dead or alive?
Willie Mays. He's the,
that was easy.
Of course it is. And that's, Willie Mays is when I grew up as a kid, I would huddle on a transistor. I would borrow a friend's transistor and listen to the Giant games when they moved here in '58. And Willie Mays was the most amazing to this day. And it's so funny because, I have a lot of good friends like Gretzky's, live over here. And he's, Wayne and I are really close because our kids play baseball together. So we traveled around when he retired after hockey. And, all the other celebrities we've worked with, the Shaquille O'Neals and Steve Nash of the world and all the people we've worked with. And I'm the last guy in the world who'd ever be starstruck, right? But I always told Wayne, I want to play golf with Willie Mays because someday that's my dream in my life. And he goes, well, I'll call him right now. because he could do that, right?
Right.
I go, no, don't, because I don't know what I would say. So I would be so starstruck. Isn't that amazing?
Isn't that
around Willie Mays?
Yep.
And so I got to do that. It's on my bucket list. I've got to have dinner with him or play golf with him or something.
Absolutely.
Just to be able to do that before he goes, because he's older than I am.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But he's still. I think he's still doing okay. So that's the one guy. That was an easy one. Thank God I had an easy one.
Yeah.
Finally.
What do you want to be known for? What's on your tombstone?
Well, I want to be known that I helped a lot more people than anyone, and I do that not just from a business standpoint, but I told the truth, and the truth as I know it. Right? That doesn't mean it's the same story. Like I always tell people, I'm telling you the same things today that I told you 5 years ago. Never listen to me again, because that's how fast science is evolving, especially on the nutrition side.
Correct.
It's changing, and if you don't keep up, if you don't evolve, you become insignificant. So that I was always never afraid to challenge tradition with the truth, and then play it all the way out and give you all of that, and take the hits along the way. So I do want I want to be known that without a doubt, I told the truth in fitness to give the next generation a much better chance than I had.
Neal, if you were to have a conversation with your younger self, what would you say? What would you say to the 10-year-old Neal, 20 to 30-year-old Neal, and then let's say Neal in 10 years?
Well, the 10-year-old Neal, I was just too busy kind of getting to the next day, but I did love sports. I didn't have any encouragement. By not having a dad around, I didn't have the same encouragement. Another regret is that I didn't have a father, right? Okay, it's not nearly as, because the one I had was a very, very bad person, and the best day was the day he was gone, So, I wish I had I would say to Neal as a 10-year-old, you can do anything you want. You just need to put the pieces together. But I didn't know that then. I was just accidentally good at stuff. But I didn't have any encouragement, so I was really not confident about, going forward. I think I could have gotten the success that I have today much sooner, and could have done more if I had encouragement. I would have had to encourage that 10-year-old Neal. At 20, at 20, it would have been a little different story. I would say, you better leave this life right now. You can leave this life right now and get moving on the track that you're on faster. Okay, so that definitely would have been fatherly advice, for that one there. At 30, at 35, or any of those things, I was forging my way. So don't forget, I didn't start my first business till I was 41. But I was building the foundation from age 23, as we talked about, so that when I did start my first business, things went like this. Wow. And the next one, and the next one, the next one. So I had this incredible foundation around me now that I was building during that time. But I would say, I made the decision that I was never afraid to take the hit. In other words, I didn't care that I didn't make any money. I knew that would come eventually. I didn't care that I was waiting tables still when I was in my 30s because Golds couldn't pay me enough. As I was traveling around the world doing stuff for them, I still had to make a living on top of that because I wasn't enough work for me. So I was still waiting tables at night in downtown LA. So nothing. I don't have anything other than I just kept my nose on. I work harder than anybody else, and that was it. I mean, just continued to work hard. I always tell people always say, "What's the secret to success?" It's just two pieces: passion and hard work. Nothing more than that. If you have passion for what you do, you're just going to work hard to get it done, and then you're just outwork everybody.
Angela Duckworth calls that grit.
Yeah.
That's absolutely what you're describing.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you one thing, Cameron. Things are happening faster now than they did in the previous years. I think that's one of the great things about getting older, as long as you continue to stay deep in what you're doing and intellectual property things that I work on. I never stop studying or reading. It's one of my 4 rules to business. You've got to continue to educate yourself every day of your life and then apply it to your field. You can't educate yourself and not apply it. If you don't apply it, it goes into a black hole and it's useless. But I will say that what's happening now is that the very few things are good about aging from a physical standpoint, right? Because eventually, you're going to lose your joints, and all these things are going to happen as you age. You just want to postpone it as long as possible. But one good thing that happens, the brain gets better and better and better, as long as you're using it and feeding it properly with the nutrition it needs to be able to reproduce, because it can continue to go and go. I am much closer to everything now. I see things and I feel things. Things are in slow motion. The rest of the world is now in slow motion. Before, it was in fast motion. I'm trying to keep up. Now I feel like I'm way ahead and I'm thinking more clearly and I can see things better. And I make better decisions, so faster things are happening in business. That's the 2 businesses we bought, for instance. I mean, we turned them around in a heartbeat, and they're just blowing up like crazy right now because I think clear. I have more experiences that I'm turning to it, and I can push out the things I don't need to know and bring in the things I do need to know in a much more concise manner. So that's the one great thing about aging if you're still in your field, is that your brain, look at your top scientists in the world, they're in their 80s. Mm-hmm. You look at these guys here because their brain never stops working on the things they're doing, and they feed their brains. So again, that's the one thing that does work with aging. So the 10 years from now, I expect to be exponentially further than we are today. Much more than the 10 years between 30 and 40.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
Wow.
Absolutely.
I'm absolutely looking forward to the future and what you're going to be doing for our industry, Neal.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Any final thoughts?
No, I don't have any final thoughts all the way around. I just, I think if the audience is, you've got a lot of trainers that you're talking to and so forth. And, the final things I always like to leave people is that I have 5 rules to long-term business success. And we've talked about all of them here today, pretty much. And this isn't the 5 components now. This is the 5 rules of long-term business success. And the first one is you have to have the right product. And all of you that are listening to this have the right product, because you can't argue fitness is not the right product. Mm-hmm. Obviously, and the right product is defined as something almost everyone needs. And so you can obviously, like a cell phone, almost everyone needs one. So that's definitely a right product, right? But the problem is that fitness is something everybody needs. The problem is it's commoditized. It's like, you got one story over here, another story over here. So what is unique about what you do in fitness? So Cameron, I've already heard a little about what unique. I know what Mike does unique, and it's the connection with the consumer. And he's just done an amazing job with his personal business. And you're on your way now. And so what is it that's unique about your fitness model? Right? Well, mine was always a holistic approach. I'm not going to train you if you don't do the nutrition program. So I had this holistic, evidence-based approach to this is what you're going to do. So first thing, you have to have the right product, and then sell what's unique about that product. Second thing you have to have then is passion for that product, right? Passion leads to hard work. Hard work is an example you set for not just the people around you, but also for your clients. Right? You work hard, they'll work hard. And they're embarrassed if they don't. Mm-hmm. So I'm not talking about your clients, I'm talking about the people around you, like your workforce. It sets the example for everybody. And then your third thing is commit to finish. What is it that you're set out to do? I set out to save the world with fitness, so my commitment's a little different. Fitness saved my life, so I owe the world that. Every day I'm thankful, I'm honored to serve humanity. So I'm committed to finish, and to my wife's chagrin, she doesn't understand. We build the biggest companies in the world. We have more money than we're ever going to spend in 25 lifetimes, and you're still buying companies and building them. I haven't saved the world yet. When I save the world, I will either save the world or die trying, so I'll never know if I don't. So commit to finish. So whatever you started out to do, Cameron, if this is where you want to be, commit to get it done. Don't give up. Giving up's too easy. And where I come from, there are fates worse than death. And one of them is a life of regret. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. So giving up is the easy way to go. So stay committed, hold yourself accountable to your vision, keep delivering on it. And that comes to your 4th rule, and that's patience. Because it's really easy to get impatient about making money or about the things you got to do. Because life, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have bad weeks, you might have bad years in business. But you have to go back to look what got you here. Look at that right product that you built and look at that passion you have for it. It's hard to find passion sometimes when you're having bad weeks. You don't even understand why you're doing this. But have patience, because patience is that virtue. It's going to come. I didn't have to start my first business. When I tell you, I was 41, right? Yeah. Okay, I was still in trouble when I was 23, 24. My wife met me. She'll say I was always in trouble. But I'm just telling you, it's like, so you got to be patient. I was patient. I kept it down. Because if you're not patient, you'll go to the dark side, and you'll sell out. You'll do something hokey, right? You'll compromise the 5th rule, and the 5th rule is integrity. And integrity is a choice that you have control of that. It's a choice you make every morning when you get up to choose the truth over popularity. So if you keep those 5 rules of business, there's no way you can't succeed. So I'll leave you with that.
It's funny, I've been listening to you for over 20 years now, and every time I learned something new every time, and that's the first time I've heard those 5. And as you are sitting here telling Cameron and myself, as a trainer of 30 years, it still hits home. Yeah. And man, that just summed up every self-help book, every motivational book, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's my life.
Yeah. Thank you.
Amazing.
That was good.
Thank you so much, Neal.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
That's it for this episode of The Principles of Fitness, everyone. I want to give Neal a special thanks for being with us on the show today, and a special thanks to Mike Pincus for being my co-host. If you enjoyed having Mike on the show, please leave a comment. Also, share this episode if you enjoyed it. And here's a sneak peek of next week's episode with NorCal Fitness Summit founder Khalid El Mesri. Do you ever take a break, and what do you do when you want to kind of decompress?
I do, man. I do. I usually will go for about 3 months. Like I usually do this 90-day sprint, and at the end of the 90-day, I usually will take a couple days where I fly back to San Luis Obispo. I'll head down to see my folks, and just kind of slow the slow life, slow down a little bit. San Luis has always been my kind of place where I can go decompress and relax, hang out by the water, and just kind of re-energize. So I usually have it planned where that's kind of my reward at the end of 90 days of sprinting and working hard, is I'll go for a couple days somewhere, whether it's out with my folks or San Diego, or, just go somewhere and just disconnect for a couple days.
To hear more from some of the best that the industry has to offer, please hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for the next episode of The Principles of Fitness.